I like the lights on the stage. It looks cool.
Thanks. Try to make it a little living roomish.
That was one of my questions, was the living room atmosphere thing.
Alright, let's do this.
Well, yeah, so the living room atmosphere thing. Where did this idea come from? Of wanting to make it, like, it's an intimate tour. There's smaller venues, there's less shows, it's very, like...
Seated.
Yeah, seated too in here, which you don't see too often.
Yeah, we're doing everything seated because the shows are so stripped down and acoustic, and I mean, I didn't even bring an electric guitar.
Okay.
So, we just figured, I wanted to give the crowd, you know, the last few tours we've been getting bigger and bigger venues, and it becomes less intimate. And a lot of people after the shows have said to me, you know, like the super fans, you know, they've been with me since the beginning.
Right.
They're kind of like, we miss when you were in the smaller places, and it felt like a living room. And so I figured that might be good to do for this tour, for just like the VIP package thing was.
Is this like a little run that then you'll do a full run for the record later, kind of thing, or is this
way later?
Way later.
I mean, because I put out 2 albums in a year.
Yeah.
And we already did 6. I just did, you know, less than 4 months ago or something. I was out for about 6 months headlining around the world. So it's too soon to go back to all the cities and do those big places again. But I put out this record so quickly that I needed to be out somehow touring it, you know, and promoting it a little bit. So we figured this would be a real good way to be out there talking about the album, but also giving the super fans, you know, kind of like that intimate experience they kept telling me that they wanted.
I said a few things that I want to touch on, but the super fans thing gets me thinking about there's like, I don't know, 30 girls waiting up front. Is it typically 20-odd-year-old girls in the crowd? Because that's
about 75%,
I think that's a nice
I would
thing
say.
For
About 75%, I would say. I mean, most of the songs that I write are about falling in and out of love. So, you know, anytime you do anything romantic, I mean, the audience is going to be more female.
Right.
So, yeah.
Cool. No, it was nice to see them up there.
Sometimes I get guys that don't even know my music come to the show just because they hear that there's going to be a lot of
girls.
girls.
And then they're like, oh, it's just for the girls. Yeah, that's great. It must be nice for you and the band member. How many band members are there, though? How many?
Well, it's always changing, but this time it's stripped down. We're just a 4-piece.
Okay. So still enough to make the record sound like the record sounds.
Some of the songs, you know, some of the songs we don't do because we don't have a full.
Well, there's strings and stuff on the record too.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even bring a bass player.
Really? So 2 guitars, keys and drums. Is that what I'm thinking?
Yep.
Okay. So is the keyboard player playing the bass lines, or
somewhat?
You rearranged the songs, I guess, to play them live.
Yeah. For this tour, we rearranged pretty much all of them to play them like really stripped down and acoustic.
That's cool. Talking about rearranging, do you write on piano? Because there's a couple of tunes.
I write on guitar.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Because there's some tunes that almost sound like they would have almost had to be written on the piano.
Yeah, well, I wanted to incorporate a lot more piano in this record because I hadn't done that in the past, and that was another thing that a lot of people were asking for. So a lot of this record came out of a demand. This tour and this album.
You just go on the road and people tell you what to do and then you make it happen?
Yeah, usually I don't, but a lot of people were, you know, when you hear a lot of the same things, like, please do a tour in small venues, please put more piano on the album, more harmonies, you know, so I listened.
So when you write a song like With Me, I assume was written on a piano with someone, or you sitting there with someone?
I actually wrote that on the guitar.
Okay, and
but then I decided to make it a piano-based song.
All right.
Because it just seemed like one of those songs that, you know, like that kind of beat. And then none of those harmonies were arranged at all before I went in, and we just kind of did that in the studio where I sang all the harmonies and kind of wanted tried to do my best Brian Wilson on some of those things, but it's just, you know, it's so
That's
hard.
in there.
It's so hard.
Well, it's Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
When did you write these songs? Like you mentioned 2 records in a year.
Yeah.
Were they written on the road during the tour? Are you able to?
A couple of them. I don't really write much on the road because there's not too much privacy.
So you need to be alone. You need silence, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
I need to usually be in my house, sitting on the couch, with nothing to do.
So that's your writing space on the couch, and you're okay.
For the most part, there are other songs that I've written in certain other places, but for the most part, yeah. A lot of times I'll write the music sitting around on my couch, and then sometimes in order to be inspired for lyrics, which I always write after the music, I'll sit in a coffee shop and stare at people's faces before, you know, until I get ideas. I remember reading an autobiography Dylan wrote, and
Chronicles.
Yeah, and he was saying that's what he did when he first started out, was go down to the University of Minnesota and sit in coffee shops all day and write lyrics, and then it helped me.
Talking about Dylan, I can't remember what interview I was reading. You talking about trying to write from other perspectives other than your own. like Dylan and being a storyteller, and trying to trying to involve that into your songwriting. How tough is that? To try and
really
put yourself
difficult.
outside your comfort
I find
zone?
that the most difficult. Some of my friends who are songwriters find it, the exact opposite. That they find it more difficult
To be honest.
to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I find that much easier because it's like writing what you know. You know, that's what I know is what's going on in my heart and my mind. The topical songs are tough for me, and that's something I'd like to get better at in the future. I think there will be more songs, like maybe on the next record, that are maybe that have me in them, but
Going on adventures.
thinly veiled. You know.
All right.
Whereas most of the songs I've written thus far are really just here I am.
Yeah,
You know, it's
heartfelt.
completely exposed.
Wax. I'm trying to. So are you writing already for the next one? Like, is this going
I'm
to be
always-
like a
I'm
yearly
always-
thing, or
I'm
are you
always
going back
writing.
to the '60s idea of we're going to put out 3 records a year kind of
Oh,
thing?
I'll never be able to do that. I shouldn't say never, but I don't think I would ever. I'm not that prolific.
But you'd like to do like a consistent stream, not wait. I don't know.
We'll see.
between
I don't
last
know.
couple
Usually
records, 3 years or
I go
whatever.
every couple years. I've been doing a record, and this one was like 2 in a year. So not only was it not one every year, it was 2 in a year. So that's a pretty furious pace of songwriting.
Are you
for
drained?
me, for
Do
me,
you feel drained?
I'm
like
a little
you've
drained.
said what you've had
I'm
to say
really
kind of
planning on taking. I'm pretty much June 6th when I do. I'm gonna do like 5 UK Europe dates.
Right. Yeah.
And then I might just stay in Europe and take trains around and bum around with a backpack and a guitar and meet people and write songs about them. That's my plan. Take like 4 months off and do absolutely nothing but travel and drink and write songs and.
Do the what is it? It's
I've been on the road a long
do
time.
most writers do that? Isn't that like a writer thing?
Like a sabbatical almost. You know?
Yeah, where they just sit in coffee shops in like Paris and just kind of write their great novel. Or whatever.
I mean, that was certainly the 20s.
Yeah.
You know, all the American authors hanging
that's
out
what I
like
was thinking.
Hemingway
Sorry,
and
Hemingway, yeah.
Fitzgerald and doing that sort of thing in Paris. And I don't think it happens as much nowadays, but I'm sure there's, at least for me, and I'm sure a lot of artists feel that way. That Paris, I don't know if it's as bohemian as it once was. It's so expensive now. You probably don't get the starving artists as much. It's, but yeah, I mean, I love going to Spain. I love Paris. In the summertime, I like hanging out in certain places in Scandinavia, Sweden, Denmark.
Why there?
I love the people up there in Scandinavia. They're very American friendly. They love everything American, the music, and they love to party. I mean, not that I'm a big partier, but they know how to enjoy life, There's not a lot of guilt involved in terms of lifestyle, so it's fun to travel there.
That's not a good question. I'm going to ask it anyway. What are the shows like comparing those audiences to these audiences?
Pretty much. My audiences are really similar wherever I go. They all found out about me in a similar way by watching like
Grey's Anatomy.
yeah, exactly, or
kind of
TV
thing?
shows or films or something
Yeah.
like that, and they went and found me on their own. It's not. Most of my audiences are. It's really a cult following. It's not like I haven't been shoved down people's throats 30 times a day on a radio station by the machines. So most of the fans I have found me doing a little bit of work, like they may have Googled a lyric, at least, you know what I mean, like something where they heard something and they had to like Shazam it, or do something where they put in a little bit of effort, and then they always feel a little more ownership of me and my music because they put in a little work.
Knowing that's, I mean, I assume bulk of the income over the years is through these sync licensing and placements and everything.
Yeah.
When you're making a record, are there ideas that like some of these songs, they fit into the record, whatever, you're writing an album, but they're going to go elsewhere too. Like, it's a singles driven market nowadays.
Yeah. But I'm an album artist.
So you write with a concept in mind, or maybe not a concept.
I
but
just
like,
write songs. I never really think about. Well, this album in particular was probably the first album I thought about as an album, like as a concept album. I mean, it's really all about love. A lot of my records before have been there's at least a few songs in there that haven't been about a breakup or falling in love with a girl. Or this one is about the one ex, my one ex-girlfriend.
The one that got away? The one
that got away. And that was 5 or 6 years ago that we split up. So a lot of the songs I'd written previously about her, or about my experience with her, might have been a little more sorrowful. And now I have a different perspective on it. And so I figured, since this was the one love of my life thus far, I wanted to create this album that was like, now this is how I see it, 5 or 6 years later.
Right.
Looking at it from a different perspective.
I talk to a lot of people who say that they almost put themselves in bad relationships to be able to write these songs. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of artists do that subconsciously.
Do you find yourself doing that?
Self-sabotage.
Yeah, exactly. To keep these
I think it's subconscious.
Songs
I certainly don't do it consciously. I'd much rather be happy than be a songwriter.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's in the cards.
No, it seems to be working out pretty well so far.
Well, I mean, happiness. I don't know if that's in the cards.
Right.
I mean, I'm relatively happy, don't get me wrong. I'm really not a morose type of person. But
well, it's a happier record, though. I mean, at least melodically.
Yeah, because I see that relationship now in a different light.
There's a lot of just nature things, like I wrote moon, sun, rain, mountains, water. Like
I live in California now.
Now, not before.
I lived there once before for a few years.
Where were you living? New York?
Yeah, I lived in New York for like 10 years.
And you moved there when?
I moved to New York.
No, sorry, to California.
It was like I did 6 years in New York, then I did 6 years in New York, and I started writing my 6th year in New York. Music.
Okay.
I started playing music.
Right.
Like right when I turned, that was about 29 and a half. I was about to turn 30. And I'm 38 now.
So you picked up the guitar at my age. That's crazy.
Is that you?
I'm 30. But yeah.
That's when I started playing music. Yeah, I didn't grow up playing music at all.
That's a long time.
I wrote my first song maybe about 6 months after that.
And then it got successful, which is insane.
Yeah, so then I just started writing songs out of demand. I didn't set out to become a musician.
Everything you do is out of demand.
Yeah, well, no. Believe me, I spent years and years in New York as a starving artist, painting, writing screenplays, doing so many things creatively where I was looking for an audience, searching for an audience desperately and couldn't find one. And this was the first thing I ever tried where it was a hobby.
Yeah.
And right away, the hobby, I fell into this profession, not thinking at all that I had talent enough to do it, to make a living at it, and not thinking that I really had the drive to do it for years and years and years without making money, So luckily, this was something I stumbled upon and loved it. It felt like when I picked up the guitar, it felt like home for the first time. I loved doing many, many things artistically, but this was the first thing I felt like I could sit on this couch and play this guitar and write songs about what's going on in my head. It was like therapy, like everything I was going through, it was very cathartic to just get it out. And I was thinking to myself, like, my inner monologue was basically saying, no one ever has to hear these songs. This is helping me. I will do this forever, whether I make money or not. I didn't even try to put my first song out, like to try to get it in a TV show or a movie or, to a label or anything like that. My friend was on a TV show. He heard me play the song and he was like, make a demo of it. Maybe we'll get it on the show. And 3 weeks later he did. So then I was like, and they sent me a check that paid my rent for the month. And I was like, wow, so that's never happened to me before. And then all these people started writing me on MySpace saying, where can we find your music? And I was like, I don't have any songs. I don't know. So it really came out of demand, and I started writing songs and learning how to play music on the road. I really started touring about a year after I started playing music.
Is that an overload when you have that much happening right at the beginning, or is it a confidence boost enough to say, oh no,
that's what I needed. I needed the confidence boost because I always thought there's no way who would want to listen to me do this? I really had no confidence at all about it. And I still don't, honestly. Like, if all of a sudden all the fans went away and no one wanted to buy my records and my career just ended, and the record business is very fickle. So if that just happened all of a sudden, I still don't think I'd have the confidence to... I mean, I'd still write songs around my house and, just for fun. But I don't think I'd have the confidence to, like, bounce back and be like, all right, now I'm going to put this comeback record, or anything like that. I really don't. It's really not me.
Would you go back to writing screenplays? Like, is that something you miss doing? I feel like as a writer,
I would maybe do that, or I would.
Not if it all went away.
I've always wanted to make a film.
There's still ideas
I've always
happening?
wanted to make a film. Not necessarily just write a screenplay now. If I went back to film, I would write the screenplay. I would want to star in it. I'd write it about music. I'd write all the music. I'd want to play the music in it. I'd want to direct the movie.
Kind of film. That kind
like
of
what?
Thing. Glenn Hansard, that once film that he did. Have you seen that?
Similar, but he didn't direct or write that.
Right, but he started it and wrote the music.
Exactly, but something that was music based like that, very cheap to make like that.
Yeah.
And something that I would write and direct and star in and do everything, because I don't like a lot of cooks in the kitchen, which is why I'm self-releasing this record for the first time. My contract was up with every label I was in, no matter what country I was in.
Right.
And it was just a perfect opportunity to say, all right, I'm going to make this record exactly the way I want to make it. I made it for 10% of the cost that any of my other records were made.
Now, how does that happen?
Because I paid for it myself.
No, but I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough.
There were no deep pockets being like, let's look at this producer, or let's look at this studio, or this band, or whatever. I was like,
that's what I was getting at.
I paid for everything myself. I produced some of the
songs.
My friend Brandon, who plays in my band, produced a couple of songs. Another friend of mine produced 4. I kind of farmed him out to a few people and did it totally differently. And so we'll see how this goes. It's an experiment, really.
And it's been a good experiment so far? I mean, the record's been out for like 2 weeks? Yeah.
Only a week.
Only a week, okay.
Well, Tuesday. So
yeah, whatever.
Maybe a week and a few days,
yeah. But the experiment so far?
Yeah, it's going great. I mean, it recouped in pre-sale.
There you go.
So, as long as I'm not losing any money making albums...
That's very different than most people nowadays.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah.
I mean, most major labels, artists don't ever recoup, and they just get dropped.
Mm-hmm.
So, most of the time, major labels spend so much money the wrong way.
Is that
just so much useless? Yeah.
Okay.
And then I have to pay for it. It comes out of the artist's royalties. It's not like the label just pays. Most people don't understand how labels work.
Sure.
They're really just a no interest loan, like from a bank. You have to pay everything back. It's not like, they're just giving you this money and you're like, ooh, I'm rich. You could get a $500,000 advance and they're just taking it out of those royalties as the record sells. And if the record doesn't sell and you don't make that $500,000 back, they drop you. And that's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So a lot of people have no idea how that works. And so, anyway, it's not that interesting.
Back to the California thing. It was way long ago that we were talking about it. When did you make that move? And has it changed the songwriting?
The first time I lived in LA, I lived in New York for 6 years.
Right.
Started writing songs that last year. Moved to LA for 3 years. But that entire 3 years I was on the road.
Okay.
So I didn't really move to LA. My storage was in LA.
Right.
Then I moved, after that, broke up with that girl. She was in LA, so I moved back to the East Coast to get away.
Yeah, fair enough.
Lived in New York for 3 years. Of course, I was on the road for most of those 3 years. And then a couple years ago, I moved back to LA, I bought a house and I set some roots.
So has it influenced?
That's what you're saying. It's sunnier and the nature and that, because I'm living, I go hiking all the time, and now I've taken a little bit of time off here and there between tours and records to hang in my house and sit on my couch and stare out the window, and I write a lot about the mountains and the rain, and
well, it's almost visually like you're painting pictures almost with some of the lyrics.
I think that actually is a lot to do with a background in screenwriting, because you're always told show, don't tell.
Yeah.
When you're writing a script, because it's a visual medium. It's film. Even though you're writing it on typewriter or computer, whatever. Were
you writing on typewriters?
No, but you know what I mean.
Okay.
Like on a keyboard.
Yeah.
You're writing. It's not visual. It's not like you're shooting it, but you're thinking about. You're writing so that when someone's reading it, you're always if a character's sad, you don't write Stan is sad. You'd write like Stan cries. A tear falls from Stan's eye. Whatever it is. It's not very descriptive, but you'd show it. In the words. And so a lot of times when I'm thinking about songs, I think that comes through, and I think that also has a big part in why a lot of people have tapped a lot of my music to use as score in TV shows and films and things like that, because it might match up somehow to some scene that they're driving down the coast, and you know what I mean. And there's something I describe in one of my songs like that, and they think about that and they go, oh, you know. And I think visually when I write.
Have you thought about scoring movies?
You know what? I would love to. Well, there's a difference between scoring. Obviously, scoring.
No, I'm talking scoring.
No
movies.
lyrics.
Yeah,
not songs. I'm not really a good enough musician to do that. Those are usually people who can play every instrument and kind of do it all themselves, and they look at a scene and they hear the string parts and they see the piano and the guitar and the you know the drum. You know, it's like everything is. They do it all. I have friends that do that, and it's those are real composers. I'm more of a songwriter, so. I would love to, like I said, one day when I make my own film, I'll write all the songs. I would love to do something like that for somebody though, like a great filmmaker, like a Graduate type soundtrack or a Harold and Maude, or you know, like get one of those, write a bunch of songs for one film. I would find that fascinating.
Yeah, that'd be cool. 5 quick questions, 1 word answers.
Go.
Road or studio?
Road.
Lennon or McCartney?
Lennon.
When you hear a song, what usually hits you first? Lyrics, melody, or rhythm?
Melody.
Song you've written you're most proud of?
You Got Growing Up to Do.
And in 1 word, Josh Radin. Joshua or Josh?
Either one.
Okay.
1 word. Describe myself in 1 word.
Yeah.
Pensive.
That's good. I like that. I was talking about before about names. I go by Matt. She goes by Beth. You're saying either.
My friends call me Josh, but everyone.
Are the records Joshua?
All the records are Joshua because initially. When that first song Winter, the first song I wrote was on Scrubs. A few weeks later I had to get a MySpace page and a domain. I had to buy like joshradin.com, but it was taken, so I bought joshuaradin.com.
Okay.
So then everyone in music based, fans and business type people would call me Joshua, so now I just respond to either. It's actually kind of nice. It's like I remember seeing an interview with Robert De Niro once, and all his friends call him Bobby.
Yeah.
But it's nice because, like, if someone walks up to him and goes, Robert, he knows that they've never met him before, they're not friends, and he doesn't have to feign, oh yeah, good to see you again.
Yeah.
So when someone walks up to me and says Joshua, I'm always like, oh, okay, I don't have to pretend. Yeah. Like, have we met? Or, because you meet so many people, and a lot of times people are so shocked that you met them once for 10 seconds and shook their hand. They're like, you don't remember we met 3 years ago in the merch line after whatever, and you're like, I'm sorry,
Oh, you don't fake it. You just say, I'm sorry to remember.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I fake it all the time.
No, I'm just like, now sometimes I'll just like, if I shake people's hand, I'll be like, nice to see you.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
Like, no matter what.
That's very,
you never know.
Works in either way.
No one, I learned that in Hollywood. Unfortunately, it's a horrible thing, but every time you meet someone in Hollywood, like an actor or something, like, they're always like, nice to see you.
Yeah. That's so true now that I think about it. Cool. Thanks, man.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
My
Good
pleasure.